Assalamu alaikum students. Before going to our educational topic, please subscribe my channel Muntzir Mehdi Science TV on YouTube. Press the like button and share this lecture to your friends and classmates who have no access to it to add in their science education. And those students that are preparing privately can benefit from our channel very effectively. Today we conversation about the factors affecting the rate of enzymes and its activity, because any factors that can change the three-dimensional structure and shape of an enzyme also affects the enzyme's action and its activity. Students, this is very important statement for concluding this lecture, this topic that we will understand during upcoming points. So let's start initially. Dear students, for understanding this topic ably, we often hear a word rate. What is meant by this term? We often use this term for speed, velocity, a work happening during a unit time. So we can say that with respect to time, the happening of a work is known as rate. For enzymes, the rate definition is as the number of substrate molecules that are catalyzed by the enzyme in a unit time is known as rate. Students, consider this is first enzyme that is catalyzing 1300 substrate molecules in just 1 second. This second enzyme is catalyzing 2000 substrate molecules in just 1 second. Let's see, both enzymes have same time period, but this enzyme is showing lower rate of enzyme's activity by catalyzing 1300 substrate molecules, and this enzyme is showing higher rate of enzymes activity by catalyzing 2000 substrate molecules. So by comparing both of these enzymes, we can assume that second enzyme has higher rate of enzymes activity in according to time. So the catalytic power of an enzyme with respect to time is called as rate. So students, every enzyme functioning in every part of any living organism has a specific rate. Either it functions slowly or rapidly. If they are slow or fast, then we will see that by which factors do the enzymes increase their rate or decrease their rate. These factors include temperature, pH, enzyme concentration, and substrate concentration. In addition to it, we will also study about denaturation and saturation concepts, that what is denaturation of an enzyme and what is saturation of an enzyme. So let's start with temperature effect for the enzyme, that what is the relation between the temperature and enzyme, and how does the temperature affect the speed or rate of the enzyme. The answer is that the catalytic activity of an enzyme increases by increasing the temperature. This sign shows to increase. So there is a direct relationship between the temperature and the enzyme. As temperature of a reaction increases, the catalytic activity of the enzyme also increases. Students, why? Now we seek for the answer of this why, because it has a reason, as it is our enzyme and it is substrate. Both of these, enzyme and substrate, have atoms, molecules, as amino acids are molecules that are present in enzymes, and substrate also have their corresponding atoms and molecules. Students, these atoms and molecules have vibrational motion, as these vibrate, are in motion, are in movement, vibration, and suppose if we heat it, then its molecules will be vibrated more rapidly, and due to this vibration, the chances between these molecules to react will also be increased. That's why the rate of the reaction by the enzymes is increased, and in the presence of the enzyme, the rate of reaction increases. Students, for this reason, we can say that by providing heat to the substrate, its molecules and atoms begin to vibrate and molecular motion is increased. As a result, kinetic energy will also be increased. Due to it, the molecular collision between the molecules will also be the incremented. So when the molecular collision is increased, then the chances of the rate of reaction is also accelerated and the reaction is speed up. As a result, a large number of molecules are catalyzed in a very short time period. That is the effect of temperature. Dear students, it is also a notable point that by the every increase of 10 degrees centigrade temperature, meaning that if we increase 10 degrees centigrade temperature from the foregone temperature, then the rate of reaction will become double. To understand it, suppose this enzyme in just 1 second catalyzes about 2000 substrate molecules at a temperature of about 10 degrees centigrade. But if we increase the temperature to double, such as 20 degrees centigrade, then the rate of reaction will be doubled. In this way, this same enzyme in just 1 second will catalyze about 4000 substrate molecules at a temperature of about 20 degrees centigrade. And if we again increase more 10 degrees centigrade temperature to this previous temperature, then it will become 30 degrees centigrade. So students, at this temperature, the rate of reaction will again become double, like 6000 substrate molecules will be catalyzed and so on. In this way, this happens to a limit point. That is very important point with respect to temperature effect. But students, everything has a limit, has a barrier, obstruction. So if we increase the temperature more and more up to the limit or tray, then the vibrational motion between the molecules will be become more and more severe onslaught. In this way, that all the bonds between the molecules of the enzymes will be broken down, especially the bonds of the amino acids of the enzymes, because there are bonds between the amino acids of the enzyme that can split by much more vibrations in between the molecules and atoms. When these bonds will be broken down, then the shape of the enzyme will also be disturbed and changed. As the enzymes possess tertiary and quaternary configuration of proteins that will be disturbed by the strong vibrations of enzymes, atoms and molecules. So now the enzyme will be called as denature. That when the bonds between the amino acids that had maintained and organized the specific shape of the enzyme will be splitted, then the shape of the enzyme will be unstable, contrary, and we will call that enzyme as denatured enzyme. Students, this word is often used for proteins. So when amino acids that are protein is denatured, then automatically enzyme will also denature. Let's come back to this point that by providing a certain amount of heat, the molecular motion between the molecules of the substrate increase. So kinetic energy, molecular collision will also be increased and the reaction will be fast. But when we provide much more amount of heat, like overheating, then the bonds will be broken down and finally the configuration of the enzyme will also be disturbed and finally changed. Then what will we call it? The answer is that we will call it as denaturation. That is the main concept of the denaturation of the enzyme. So from all of this, we will conclude that by increasing the temperature gradually, the rate of reaction also increases gradually. But by a plenty heat, the rate of reaction will begin to decrease, even slowing remitently till is reached to zero. Dear students, the rate of reaction is increased due to this reason, whereas the gradual decrease in the rate of reaction is due to this reason. Next, we try to understand the temperature effect with the help of a graph. Students, we have this graph. Here is x-axis and here is y-axis. At the x-axis, we show the temperature, that is about 10 degrees centigrade, 20 degrees centigrade, 30 degrees centigrade, 37 degrees centigrade, 40, 45 and finally 100 degrees centigrade. Whereas at the y-axis, we study the enzyme's activity, namely rate. Here is 0 and here are 20, 40, 60, 80 and 100 substrate molecules. Dear students, the temperature graph will be in this way that firstly it moves upward, then it begins to come downward. As this graph moves upward, students, moving towards upward, this graph helps us to study about 2 points. As this graph moves upward and right side, so it can be read along both axes. From here it can be read along y axis, and from here it can be read along x axis. From x axis it helps to study the temperature range, and from y axis it helps to know about the enzyme's activity, its rate. So it is showing that with the increase of temperature, the enzyme's activity also increases. So at the 10 degrees centigrade, the catalytic activity of the enzyme is above than 10 substrate molecules. At the 20 degrees centigrade, the catalytic activity is 25 substrate molecules. At the 30 degrees centigrade, it is nearly to 50 substrate molecules, whereas at the 37 degrees centigrade, it is about 100 substrate molecules. Students, now this graph is representing the specific temperature points of a body, and at these specific temperature points, the activity of a specific enzyme. Students, now see and consider that at the 10 degrees centigrade, that is representing the initial temperature, the rate of the enzyme is above than 12 substrate molecules. If we increase 10 degrees centigrade more temperature, then at the 20 degrees centigrade the rate has become double, namely 25 substrate molecules. Similarly, if we increase 10 degrees centigrade more temperature, then at the 30 degrees centigrade the rate is become again double, about 50 substrate molecules. That is representing that now the rate of reaction, the catalytic activity of the enzyme is again become double. And finally at the 37 degrees centigrade, at the maximum temperature, that is the limit point, the enzyme's activity is again double, about 100 substrate molecules. So now we conclude that by the rise of every 10 degrees centigrade temperature, the rate is become double, and at the 37 degrees centigrade an enzyme can catalyze 100 of substrate molecules, and beyond this limit point there is no graph and there is no increase in rate. That is the final point, and we call this point as optimum temperature. Students, the definition of optimum temperature is as the temperature at which the enzyme's activity, its rate, is become maximum is called as optimum temperature. Students, 37 degrees centigrade is the optimum temperature in the case of human body. So most of the enzymes can perform supremely best at this temperature, that is 37 degrees centigrade. In addition to it, below or above this temperature, students, the enzyme's action can also show variation. But upon that fixed point, the enzyme's activity is maximum, never changes. So when this maximum activity point falls at that point, at this 37 degrees centigrade point, then it represents the optimum temperature. Above that optimum temperature, the enzyme's activity can't increase, but above this temperature, the enzyme's activity begins to decrease. So when we move downward along this graph, then it means that the activity of the enzyme decreases from 100 to 50 to 25 up to 12 and finally to 0 substrate molecules. So when graph moves downward, then the activity will be read downward also, which means that the rate is decreasing. So students, as this graph line is moving right side, so by increasing the temperature to 40 degrees centigrade, the activity has decreased from 100 to 50 substrate molecules, and then to 100 degrees centigrade the rate is at the 0 point. So by increasing the temperature beyond the optimum limit, the activity of the enzyme decreases. Students, what is the cause of it? Its cause is denaturation of the enzyme. So at this point, the enzyme is destroyed, denatured due to its heat sensitivity. and adopt this form. So now it is unable to catalyze any substrate molecule. So students, still here I have completed our first point, the effect of temperature on the enzyme, with the help of theory, conversation and graph. That is the first part of our video lecture. In the second part we will conversation about the effect of pH on the enzyme, enzymes concentration and substrate concentration. You can find all the details about the next 3 points in the second part of this video. Please tell us how did you find this lecture by liking our videos and sharing it and subscribing our channel Muntzir Mehdi Science TV. So support us so that I will prepare much more better videos for you. Students, at the end, I want to encourage you that spend some time with your elders and old persons because they also have some droid to you and sometimes they feel a strong need of your and yourself. Finally, many thanks for watching this your video.